Fearless and truthful.
Provocative and controversial.
We say it like it really is.
With dignity and respect.
Committed to free speech and common sense.
Upbeat and entertaining.
Straight talking and direct.
We may agitate each other and you.
Thought-provoking, provocative and controversial.
Hello and welcome to The Pledge. As fears grow about a possible no-deal Brexit, plans are being put in place. Hospitals are preparing to stockpile medicines. Supermarkets are making sure there'll be enough food. Well, we at The Pledge decided we needed our own contingency plans to make sure there is no disruption to your viewing. So we're going to start stockpiling panellists. First into the madhouse, we've brought in Trevor Phillips. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you here.
Yeah, welcome, Trevor.
Coming up, I'm making a racket about the Serena Williams row. Michelle thinks we need to consider offering treatment to potential paedophiles. Greg wants a radical change to tackle the housing crisis. And Nick says sometimes stereotypes aren't lazy, just true. But first, let's see what our newest face around the debating table wants to talk about.
Let's leap straight in. I am fed up with the media having an attack of the vapours every time someone uses vivid language. And I think it's time we stopped having a fit each time Boris Johnson or Donald Trump throws a verbal grenade. Whether it's Theresa May's suicide vest or Muslim women and letterboxes, critics say these words, and that's all they are, words, cause offence. Sure, they're meant to. But why shouldn't public figures be able to deploy words that sting and images that shock? Indeed, when someone lets rip, that's exactly how the rest of us get to understand who they are. If you call me the N-word to my face, then I know one more name off my Christmas card list. People like Johnson and Trump know exactly how to get everybody talking about the things they want us to, which is mostly them. The rest of us complain conventional politics is dull, but we're letting the populists take over. No wonder when we're using gags to stop people from speaking out rather than making politicians worth listening to.
Trevor, just to remind us and the viewers, we've got a clip here showing the sort of things that were said this week.
I think he's wrong on this. I think the tone that he's used isn't right, and I think that we just need to be very focused on actually moving forward with the Chequers plan.
I think there are much better ways to articulate your differences, and I think it's a reminder, I think, for all of us in public policy, whichever political party we represent, to use measured language.
I don't think his comments yesterday were well judged. And I think, again, returning to the substance, I don't think he set out an alternative approach to Brexit.
When Boris speaks, he gets it across in a metaphor in a very clear way. Basically, he's saying the European Union will still control the United Kingdom.
See, Trevor, I'm not sure I agree with you. I think there is a problem of debasing the language. I think that when Trump, for instance, went through a whole election campaigns calling her crooked Hillary, I think it devalued the whole thing. And I think once you've got there, there's almost no coming back. And that therefore, bit by bit by bit, the language used and the abuse used between politicians will get worse. And I think there are better ways of saying some of the stuff. I mean, at the moment, Boris he's got a column every week. He needs to keep himself on the front pages, so every week he writes something that he knows will create this reaction, which is what you said. I think that is damaging to our politics, not an advantage.
If it were just about abuse, then fine, I would agree with you. But Boris Johnson didn't say something about another politician. He made a metaphor about something which we all talk about. And to be honest, you know, public speaking is really about telling great stories that other people will pay attention to. And he kind of told a story. To be honest, when I listened to the responses to him, what I'm really thinking is, who, frankly, has remembered anything that either of those guys ever said? We can't say, let's make politics, let's make our democracy vibrant and alive, but let's remove the weapon that the politicians have, which is to excite interest from them. What Trump did, different thing, direct abuse about a particular individual, that's a whole different story. This is not about that. This is about vivid speech.
Well, can I just say how delighted I am, Trevor? Because when I saw your name on the team sheet today, I thought, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear, I like you very much, but we're just never, ever going to agree. But welcome to reality. You are absolutely right. And you will learn that Greg is wrong. And this is just par for the course.
Is that one of the programme rules?
I think that's effectively it. What's he wrong about?
Shall we just go to the closing credits now?
But the whole idea of a metaphor is that it's not literal. So had Boris, and I completely support Boris's comments, had Boris said that they'd wrapped a suicide vest around the Prime Minister or they'd wrapped it around the Brexit team, that's ugly. It's an inanimate object, the British Constitution or whatever it was.
In fact, it doesn't exist.
In fact, it probably doesn't.
There we go, that's another debate.
There's Boris done it again, getting on the front page. So it's perfect. And Trevor is absolutely right. It has become a national pastime now to take offence. We have become an extraordinary nation of shrinking violence, whether it is, as the example that you've quoted, there's even another one, which perhaps we'll actually see this. This is after Chuka Umunna, the Labour politician, appeared on Sky News and said that he felt the Labour Party was in some way institutionally racist. He was then under attack from Labour bigwigs, and he responded like this.
My message to our leadership is clear. It is within your power to stop this. So call off the dogs and get on with what my constituency, one of the most diverse communities in the country, demands we do.
After which, Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell said the use of the word dogs, quotes, is just unacceptable. Did he really think? Does he think, Chuka thinks, he's going to be savaged by hounds? It totally underscores his point. We are and ultimately, actually, we will become just too precious a nation. So well done, Trevor, and welcome to the show. We're going to have great times together. That's made him doubt his three. Why did I ever come?
I think I'm going to change my mind.
But can I respond? Even though I've spent most of the last 2 weeks trying to avoid talking about the subject of my brother's remarks and how provocative he is. I think it was interesting that in that clip that almost everybody the news media found to say how outrageous he was a Tory MP who doesn't want to see Boris Johnson become Prime Minister. I mean, you know, from Alan Duncan, who used to work with him, to David Gauke, you know, they all climbed on that bandwagon, the anyone but Boris one. But I've got a slightly mixed response to your topic, which is that I sat here and I said that I felt very harassed and actually upset by some of the language used about Remainers by an unnamed tabloid newspaper. You know, enemies of the people about the judiciary and traitors about the Tory MPs who didn't support Brexit. And I found that language difficult. So, I don't know, and I find it inflammatory. So I'm not sure whether I totally on board your bus that we should have absolute open season for anyone to say anything about anybody, regardless of the consequences. So, because I want to bring in Trump now to move away from Tory politicians, because he is also very outspoken, and what he said potentially about the North Korean leader, didn't even give him his name, was maybe equally provocative.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing and able.
When he has his finger on the nuclear button and, you know, he's talking about an armed and cocked opponent like Kim Jong-un, is that sensible?
The weapons that politicians have at their disposal in a democracy are words.
Are nuclear weapons.
And frankly, I would rather any word that can be used rather than Donald Trump pressing a trigger that sends a weapon. Words are they're the essence of democracy, and it's called invective. By the way, this is not just about Tories. I mean, to me, one of the greatest pieces of invective was used by Dennis Healey, the Labour politician, when he said that being attacked by Geoffrey Howe was like being savaged by a dead sheep. Now,
that's funny and that's good.
Yeah, it's memorable.
That's not
it's memorable speech.
Let's prove we're democratic on the pledge. We haven't heard from Michelle.
Well,
your words.
I am with both of you. I agree with both of you in part. So words don't offend me at all. I don't get offended. I get called names and everything all day, every day on social media. And if I was offended, it'd be a sad day. But so I agree with you to the point where we should stop being so precious about the words that people are using and stop being so quick to be offended. But then I also, and I think Boris Johnson is very smart. I think he says a lot of what he says purely for column inches, purely for attention, and purely to get people talking about him. So, but then to the other side, I also think that when I see, for example, the President of the United States calling people little rocket man, and I just think it's a bit pathetic. I just think I understand the language, I'm not offended by it, you know, and I'm sure it's the kind of thing that people say up and down in the pubs. But I just think, actually, if you're going to be the leader of the United States, I would actually like you to be able to communicate and articulate yourself slightly better.